خير الخلق قدوتنا تعال وزر وشاركنا وقم بالخير سابقنا لقانا في ابن تيمية وخير الخلق قدوتنا لقانا في ابن تيمية وخير الخلق قدوتنا لقانا في ابن تيمية وخير الخلق قدوتنا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. After the obligatory matters of wudu, the author brings up the issue of al-khuf. ويمسح على الخفين في الطهارة الصغرى وعلى الجبيرة منهما. ويمسح على الخف المقيم يوما وليلة والمسافر 3 أيام ولياليهن من الحدث إلى مثله على ساتر ثابت بنفسه. After the obligatory acts of wudu that must either be washed or wiped, including the foot, the author concluded them with tartib, muwala, then niyyah. Now it's only practical and common sense to give an exemption pertaining to the foot that he previously included under the limbs that must be fully washed. Wiping over the khuf is mentioned here because it's essential to minor purification. And it's very practical. Some ulama even mention this matter or allude to it in aqidah books or aqidah statements. Among the earliest to mention it like that is Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah ta'ala. He said one who doesn't wipe over the khuf can be accused in his religion. He didn't mean that you need to go out and buy a pair of khuf and wipe over them. He means believing in the concept of the permissibility of wiping over the khuf is essential. Why did he say that when these fiqh issues that we've been discussing for weeks are nearly all disputed by who we refer to as all-time imams, the all-time imams of our deen, who keep going back and forth? The Furū al-Fiqh disputes that we go over are generally the types of disputes that don't take one out of the folds of Ahl Sunnah. There's some slack in these types of disputes because we said they're minor fiqh, al-fiqh al-asghar. However, in this matter, Sufyan al-Thawri, al-Barbahari, and others mentioned it in aqidah. They weren't talking about the detailed disputes within this matter. They were talking about fully denying wiping over the khuf. One who denies the permissibility of wiping over the khuf is in reality denying tens of narrations and an implied meaning taken out of a verse in the Quran, as we'll see inshallah. But the reason they mention it in aqidah books is because it wasn't Ahl Sunnah disputing this. It was the Rawafid and some of the sects of the Khawarij. And it became a symbol and trademark for them. It became a symbol to distinguish the Sunni from the Rafidi and the Khawarij. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala in Minhaj al-Sunnah stated that Ash-Sha'bi said Rawafid and Jews don't believe in wiping over the khuf. Another point to keep in mind pertaining to the overall concept of the permissibility of wiping over the khuf is what's related by some Sahaba that they denied the permissibility of wiping over the khuf. They're not authentic. And those narrations that are really authentic, the Sahaba recanted them. So there's no dispute on the overall permissibility of wiping over the khuf among Ahl Sunnah. So let's take the statements of the author one by one. وَيَمْسَحُ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْنِ فِي الطَّهَارَةِ الصُّغْرَى. Khuf are leather socks. So the author is saying the khuf can be wiped over when a person is in the state of minor impurity only. And the proof for wiping over the khuf is first of all taken from the Quran. فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. The verse on wudu in Surah Al-Ma'idah. There's two qira'at for that verse. For arjulakum. Arjulakum, your feet. There's a qira'ah bin nasb. Wa arjulakum, with a fatha. Fatha where? Fatha and the lam. Wa arjulakum. So when a fatha is on the lam, it would grammatically follow wujuhakum. Wujuhakum is your faces. You wash your face, so that means you wash your feet. Very clear. The second qira'ah is biljar, with a kasra. Kasra where? On the lam. In the qira'ah where there's a kasra on the lam, it would grammatically follow ru'usikum. Ru'usikum is your head. What do you do with your head? You wipe the head. So that means you wipe the feet, and that is referring to wiping over the khuf. In addition to the verse is the hadith in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim on the authority of Urwa ibn al-Mughira عن أبيه قال كنت مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في سفر فأهويت لأنزع خفيه فقال دعهما فإني أدخلتهما طاهرتين فمسح عليهما. Urwa, the son of al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah, said, my father told us that he was on a journey with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he dashed to take off the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam's khuf. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, دعهما فإني أدخلتهما طاهرتين. Leave them because I wore them after wudu. Then he passed his wet hands over them. There's plenty of proof on wiping over the khuf, both for residents and those traveling. Ibn al-Mundhir and Ibn al-Mubarak, Ibn Abd al-Barr, in Nawawi, Ibn Qudama, and other ulama related in ijma' on the permissibility of wiping over the khuf. In fact, Imam Ahmad said, I have no doubt, or I have no, more properly translated probably as I have no negative feelings against wiping over the khuf. There's over 40 ahadith on it. In Al-Mughni, Al-Hasan al-Basri said, there's 70 of the Sahaba who informed me that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam wiped over the khuf. So which is better? Wipe over the khuf or wash the feet? The majority of the ulama, Abu Hanifa and Malik and Shafi'i, say it's better to wash the feet than to wipe over the khuf, because washing is the origin, and the origin is always better to do. The rajih is the second opinion. This one, that is the minority opinion in the opinion of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah ta'ala, and it's the opinion that combined between all the proofs. And they said it depends on the status of the individual in his foot. Ibn al-Qayyim and Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, also followed this opinion. They said if the foot is bare, it's better to wash. If the foot has a khuf on it, it's better to wipe over it. In the previous hadith that I just mentioned, that is on the authority of the son of Al-Mughira bin Shu'bah, when Al-Mughira dashed to take the khuf off the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam's feet, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered him to leave them on, because the ulama said it was better to wipe over them since they were on. When the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam's feet were bare, he would wash the feet. When they're covered, he would wipe over them. And that is what's better to do. وَيَمْسَحُ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْنِ فِي الطَّهَارَةِ الصُّغْرَى. وَيَمْسَحُ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْنِ فِي الطَّهَارَةِ الصُّغْرَى. Wiping over the khuf is in minor impurity. طَهَارَةِ الصُّغْرَى. So if you have to do ghusl, the major purification, like after relationship with the wife, and you're wearing a khuf, you can't wipe on the khuf. You must take them off for the ghusl. The parts that you wipe on during wudu, you gotta wash in ghusl, like the head. And similar or like that is the khuf. So the author said, وَيَمْسَحُ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْنِ فِي الطَّهَارَةِ الصُّغْرَى. Then he said, وَعَلَى الْجَبِيرَةِ مِنْهُمَا. وَعَلَى الْجَبِيرَةِ مِنْهُمَا. The author said you wipe on al-jabira in both situations. What's al-jabira and what's those both situations that he's referring to? Al-jabira is back in the days when an arm or a leg broke or foot broke, they would have sticks that they put and they would wrap them to stabilize the bones. Or it's medical bandages medical wraps, or what's referred today as a cast, any type of medical wrapping. That's al-jabira. But what does he mean when he's saying you can wipe over it in both situations? He means in both minor and major impurity. So the statement translates to be al-jabira, the bandages, can be wiped over in both the state of minor and major impurity. In the earlier statement, he said wiping the khuf is only for minor impurity. Now he just wanted to clarify that casts or medical bandages and their likes can be wiped over in both major and minor impurity, unlike the khuf. Now there's an issue here. And this issue, this mas'ala, could have been brought up under tayammum, when we spoke about tayammum, or here under al-jabira, and I delayed it to speak about it here. In between that, a very dear and beloved brother asked this specific reoccurring practical question. And if you remember, we answered that in one of the Q&A sessions, but it wasn't recorded due to a technical issue. We answered it very, very summarized, but we'll go over it again in more details with the names of the ulama. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward this dear and beloved brother who asked. I can't remember him ever out of the tens or possibly hundreds of questions or advice he sent me over the years in his correspondence that he didn't begin them with a dua for me or my mother. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant her firdaus. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him and place barakah in his da'wah and return it upon him and his family in good in dunya and in akhirah. His manners are not consistent like that for a year or two. They've actually been like that since I met him nearly a decade ago. In fact, when we started the Tawheed classes, they were not meant to be recorded or broadcast. They were supposed to be just local classes. The brothers had no plan to even record in them. But when they were announced, this brother who asked the question was among the brothers who encouraged that they be published, and he began to search for ways and means to publish them, and he strongly encouraged that and offered everything he can do to help in that. I reminded him of this recently, and he himself had forgotten about it. So imagine a righteous word or suggestion or advice that one may say in a proper setting or proper timing that has a strong effect, that he forgets about it, only to be reminded about it when he stands before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it may be means for him to enter Jannah and Firdaus. So the question is, someone can't wash his face or his arm due to allergy or skin disease. And like that, identical to that, is someone who's wearing al-jabira, a cast or a medical bandage on a hand or foot or elsewhere. What does he do? And I can summarize this in two opinions. And it's not easy as it may seem, so you need to focus. Hanafiya and Malikiya, very similar to them, said he washes what he can and he wipes over the parts that he can't. In fact, they said if he can't wipe over an ill or wounded or broken limb, he should go as far as trying to cover it, then wipe over it. If it's too harmful, he's unable to, then he just leaves it. They also said, pertaining to this matter, a follow-up on this matter, if he's not able to wash the majority of his body for ghusl, or the majority of the wudu limbs or acts, then he heads right to tayammum. So if one had wounds covering half the body or more, or half the wudu limbs or more, then they said that person heads right to tayammum. This is the Hanafiya and Malikiya. The Hanafiya and Malikiya here do not combine between washing and full tayammum, like you're going to see in the next opinion. Some who support this opinion, that there's no tayammum with washing. They said tayammum, they supported this opinion. They said tayammum came as a total purification, not for individual limbs, which was their response to the second opinion. What's the second opinion? Second opinion is the opinion of a Shafi'iyah, and Hanabila are very similar to them. They said the person with a cast or a wound washes the healthy parts. Once he gets to the ill or wounded or broken limb, he does full tayammum for that part. Then he resumes with his wudu. Now, there's two differences. There's a slight difference between the Shafi'iyah and Hanabila in that the Shafi'iyah don't say to wipe over the part that is ill, while Hanabila say to wipe over if you can. The second difference, Shafi'iyah said tayammum for that limb that he didn't wash is within wudu, inside wudu, in the middle of wudu. Meaning, when you reach the part that you're not able to wash, you do tayammum and you resume your wudu. Hanabila said tayammum can be before, during, or after wudu. That detailed answer was for Tullab al-Ilm. The summary and rajih is that this is an ijtihad issue. The foundational proof is فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah as much as you can. One should wash in wudu the parts that he can. Then wipe over what he can't, if he's able to, whether it's covered or bare. Wipe over the cast or bandage, or gently over the bare skin if there's a disease or allergies, if he's able to. If he's harmed by wiping it, and you just skip it. So wash, then wipe, or leave it in those steps. Now the only thing left is, do you do tayammum for that part that you fully skipped or no? Again, this is an ijtihad issue, and the best choice is to free yourself, al-ahwat, is to free yourself from the dispute by making tayammum in replacement for that limb that one skipped. Shafi'i said tayammum takes place during wudu at the part where one reaches the spot that he can't wash. Others, like Al-Hanabila said, is flexible. You do tayammum for that part before, during, or after. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala was among those who said one should combine the wudu with the tayammum for the part that he was not able to wipe over. So let me give you the recap. Wash, wipe, or let it go in those steps. If you're not able to wipe over that limb at all, then do full tayammum for that part that you missed during, after, or before the wudu. وَيَمْسَحُ عَلَى الْخُفِّ الْمُقِيمُ يَوْمًا وَلَيْلَةً وَالْمُسَافِرُ ثَلَاثَةَ أَيَّامٍ وَلَيَالِيَهُنْ. The residential person can wipe over his leather socks for a day and a night, 24 hours. And a traveling person can wipe over his leather socks 3 days and 3 nights. 72 hours. This is one of the issues that we sometimes think they're clear. And we grew up as kids knowing to wipe over the khuf or the socks, as we'll see inshallah, for 3 days and 3 nights when we're traveling, 1 day and 1 night when we're a resident. In fact, this was part of the curriculum in Medina when I was in 2nd grade, to teach us that. But it's actually disputed, and this is for Tullab al-Ilm, of course. So the first opinion is wiping over the khuf is limited to 3 days, 3 nights for a traveler, 1 day and 1 night for a person who's a resident. That's the opinion of the overwhelming majority of the ulama. And many Sahaba chose it, and many Tabi'een and ulama chose it. Among the ulama, the 4 ulama who chose it is Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i, and Ahmad. And among the Sahaba who chose it is Umar ibn Khattab, Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Ibn Mas'ud, and Ibn Abbas, and Hudayfa, and Al-Mughira. And among the ulama is Dawood al-Zahiri, and Ishaq ibn Rahawayh, Thawri, Al-Awza'i. The Sahaba who chose this show you how strong of an opinion it is. The proof is the hadith in Sahih Muslim on the authority of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. جعل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم 3 أيام ولياليهن للمسافر ويوما وليلة للمقيم. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم fixed a fixed period for wiping over the khuf, 3 days and 3 nights for a traveler, and 1 day and 1 night for a person who is a resident. There's several other ahadith that specifically mention 3 days and 3 nights and 1 day and 1 night. The second opinion is the opinion of Malik, Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, and Al-Shafi'i in his old madhab, and Al-Layth ibn Sa'd and Al-Hasan al-Basri. Some attribute it to Umar and his son, radiallahu anhum. Umar had an opinion in the previous opinions. It's attributed to him. This second opinion is attributed to him as well. In this opinion, they said there's no limit on wiping over the khuf. Once you put them on in tahara, after wudu, you don't need to take them off unless you need to do ghusl. Meaning, you put them on today, you don't take them off unless you need to do ghusl. You can go forever, no limit, unlimited. Because the hadith in Al-Daraqutni and Al-Hakim, in that hadith, it's attributed to Umar as his own statement. And it's also attributed that Anas ibn Malik reported it as a statement of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's that if one makes wudu, let him wipe over the khuf and not take them off except from janaba. إذا توضأ أحدكم ولبس خفيه فليمسح عليهما وليصلي فيهما ولا يخلعهما إن شاء إلا من جنابة. Meaning the only time you take them off is if you need to do the major purification, ghusl. They also used another hadith. In that hadith that they used is the limit of 3 days, 3 nights, and 1 day and 1 night for a resident. In the 3 days, 3 nights for a traveler. They said that hadith that they used has an addition in Sunan Abi Dawood. وَلَوْ اسْتَزَدْنَاهُ لَزَادَنَا. If we would have asked that the limit of 3 days, 3 nights to be increased, or 1 day, 1 night to be increased, he would have extended it more. But Al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala said it's not authentic. So what's Al-Rajih? Ibn Abd al-Barr shows Al-Rajih to be going by the limit of 72 hours for a traveler, 24 hours for a resident. He said it's ahwat, it's more cautious. He said it's freeing yourself from the dispute. He said it's freeing yourself from the dispute. And the Sahaba who narrated or adopted it are more, and its hadith is in Sahih Muslim at a higher level of authenticity. The next statement is min al-hadathi ila mithle. The author is referring to when does the precise timing, the 72 hours or 24 hours, when does the clock start ticking on those? When is the precise moment that the clock is ticking on those 72 hours or 24 hours for a resident? It may not be as simple or as obvious as many think it is, so we'll talk about that inshallah next week. Jazakumullah khair wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.